going to be just slightly shorter than normal because there's a new system that they've asked me to use for the Mora Nevuchim Shir, and I have to get on a little bit earlier there this morning, so I apologize. We're going to finish a few minutes early today. But let's get started. Let's see here. Let's see, let me do the share screen. Okay, here we go. Okay. Now, I hope everyone had a nice weekend and had plenty of chance to rest up. We were learning on, I guess, Thursday that there's a mitzvah to do prika for a Jew and for a Gentile equally, and it's only the mitzvah of te'ina where we say that there's an exclusive mitzvah for a Jew to reload his animal, whereas that's not the case for a Gentile, unless, of course, you perceive that there would be a chilul Hashem for you to leave him all alone where he can't help himself. But we know that the mitzvah of te'ina, and by the way, the mitzvah of prika, when you do it for a Gentile, you have an obligation to do so because of tsar balei chayim, but you also have a right to charge him for your efforts. For a Jew, you don't charge for prika, but you charge for te'ina, and for a Gentile, you can charge for both prika and te'ina. Now, so now that we've learned that there's a mitzvah of both prika and te'ina, even sometimes for a non-Jew, he says, but it's under the rubric of tsar balei chayim and chilul Hashem, and not under the formal category of prika and te'ina. So he states as follows: V'hoel v'ha'eno Yehudi eno b'mitzvahs te'ina u'prika ela mishum tsar balei chayim bilvad. He says, now that we've clarified that there is no formal mitzvah of te'ina and prika, but rather there's only an obligation to help a struggling animal, not because of its owner, but rather because you're obligated to alleviate an animal's suffering. So mitzvah lifrok imo v'rashai litol schar al zeh. So therefore, when you do the prika for the non-Jew, you're allowed to take compensation. So that's what we've already clarified. So im kain. So if all of the aforementioned is correct, mahu sha'amra Torah kisir echa mor sona'acha. So then we have another question. The question is, there's the Torah says, and this is the source text. Sorry. The source text for how I know that you're supposed to do the mitzvah of prika is the Torah says in Parshas Mishpatim, Ki tir'eh chamor sona'acha. When you see the donkey of the person that you hate, of your enemy, when you see the donkey of your enemy, roveitz tachas maso, struggling under its load, v'chadalta me'azov lo, shall you refrain from turning aside to help? Azov ta'azov imo, no, you shall surely turn aside and help that person. So that's what the Torah says, but the Torah doesn't talk about ki tir'eh chamor re'acha, when you see the donkey of your fellow, or the donkey of your brother, ki tir'eh chamor achicha. It says chamor sona'acha, when you see the donkey of your enemy. Now, why does the Torah write it that way? It's not referring to a non-Jew, right? As the Imrei Yaakov says, there is no formal mitzvah of prika and te'ina for a non-Jew. So what is the Torah referring to? In kain mahu sha'amra Torah ki tir'eh chamor sona'acha. So he answers, hu b'sonei Yisrael. It's referring to your Jewish enemy. Your Jewish enemy. So that leads to the obvious question. You're not allowed to hate a Jew, are you? V'heich yihiyeh Yisrael sonei li Yisrael. How can one Jew hate another Jew? V'hatorah amra lo sisna es achicha bilvavecha. Doesn't the Torah say that you may not hate your brother in your heart? So how can you hate a fellow Jew? Why would the Torah call that person your enemy? Why? Because he davens at the wrong shul, or he doesn't wear the right color yarmulke? That's sinas chinam. You don't. How can the Torah say that he's your enemy? You have no right. That's groundless. That's why the temple was destroyed. So how can the Torah sanction it? So Amru Chachamim. So the rabbis tell us, Kigon shera'ohu levado sha'avar avera. So the rabbis in the Gemara tell us that what it's referring to is if you see someone who committed a sin, or someone is a sinful person, he's a habitual sinner, v'hisra bo v'lo chazar, and you admonish the person, and you told him, let's say you saw him walking into a strip club, okay, or you see him walking out of a strip club, and you go over to him and say, I can't believe what I just saw, or you saw him walk out of a non-kosher restaurant, and you say to him, you just walked out of McDonald's, what's going on, man? And he says, well, I don't abide by the laws of kashrus anymore, and just keep it to yourself, and you're not allowed to tell anyone, because that would be lashon hara, right? And so you tell him, but how can you do that, man? I mean, come on, we daven in shul together every Shabbos, and we study Gemara together in the shir, and what are you doing? What are you doing? And velo chazar. And the guy says, just leave me alone. This is my own thing. It's between me and God. I'm going to do what I want to do. And he doesn't do tshuva, and he continues doing what he wants to do in his personal life. And he says, Ve'eno rashai leilech lebeis din yechidi laha'id alav. And of course, you can't take him to beis din, because what is beis din going to do? You're one witness after all. Now the implication is sheyikabil ansho, for him to receive his punishment. The implication is that if there were two witnesses that see this guy eating at McDonald's, eating cheeseburgers at McDonald's, then you would be allowed to take him to a beis din, and the beis din would be able to summon him and say to him, look, our dear fellow Jew, you better stop eating from McDonald's, otherwise, we're going to have to impose a penalty on you. Well, what penalty? We're going to give you rabbinic lashes. We're going to give you lashes of some kind because you're doing something wrong. And he says, well, I'm not going to stop. So halachically, they can give him lashes if there are witnesses that he's eating treif, right? So, but here, there's only one witness, and the Gemara says that you have no right to testify against him in beis din if you're only one witness, because it turns out that would be lashon hara, right? So now first of all, you have to appreciate that what the Gemara is talking about is a society in the ancient or medieval world where if a person did not abide by the rules of Judaism, he would be ostracized from the community and also subject to penalty in beis din. But today, that is not the case. Today, even if two people see a guy eating at McDonald's, there's no jurisdiction that any rabbinic court has upon this person. They do, of course, have the jurisdiction to ostracize the person and to say that this guy is not a Torah observant Jew. But to what end? I mean, what's the point? Today we don't check whether people are wearing tzitzis. Today we don't check what a person's personal level of observance is, right? We just accept every Jew who wants to be part of the Jewish community. But there is one legal ramification as it pertains to interpersonal relationships. He says, "Hare mitzvah lisano so ad sheyasa tshuva b'yashuv mirishaso." There's a mitzvah to hate that person. And I know that the word hate is a very strong word, but there is a mitzvah to hate a person who deliberately goes ahead and violates the law and refuses to accept rebuke. And there is a mitzvah to hate him until he does tshuva and repents from his sinfulness. V'af al pi she'adayin lo asa tshuva. But this is what the Torah is talking about. He's your enemy in the sense that he's not living his life according to the Torah. He's your enemy. So we said mitzvah lifrok v'liton imo kimo lahachzir avedaso, hoil va'avar l'te'ava. But he's still your brother. He's still a member of your mishpacha. He's still your kin, and therefore you have an obligation to, if he loses a lost object, to do the mitzvah of hashavas aveda. There's still a mitzvah to return his lost items, and to make him whole. So that's what the Torah means when it says if you see your enemy. Why is he your enemy? Because he's not living a life of Torah. And he knows what he's supposed to do, but he refuses to do so. But nonetheless, he's your mishpacha, and therefore you have an obligation to do the mitzvah of both prika and te'ina. And therefore, if the Torah says, when you see the donkey of your enemy, you have an obligation to do prika, it's referring to a case where he's a Jew. That's where you have a mitzvah. Now, why would the Torah discuss the enemy if it applies to every Jew? The Torah is telling you a chiddush, something more than what you would normally infer, that you have an obligation to deal in a brotherly way with a fellow Jew who is still not living his life according to the laws of Judaism. Now, I want to be clear that we're not talking about a person who, as we learned from the Chazon Ish, that in today's world is a tinok shenishba, is a person who was not raised in an observant home. We're not talking about such a person, because for that kind of person, you're not even allowed to hate him. You're supposed to have only compassion for him. And so what the Torah is talking about is a soneh, meaning that he knows he went to 8 years of elementary school. He went to the finest yeshiva. He comes to shul every Shabbos with a black hat and professes to be pious, but he's leading a double life, and he wants his cake and eat it too. Quite literally, he wants to live and represent himself as part of the observant community, but at the same time, he's leading a life of deception. That's the kind of person that we're talking about. We're not talking about a secular Jew. We're talking about a person who professes to be religious, but he's really not. So there, because he's leading that double life, that I believe in today's nomenclature, that would be the only kind of person where there's a mitzvah to hate him. There's a mitzvah to have a negative feeling towards that person. I'm not talking about hating him, meaning you wish to see him dead, but hate him in the sense that, oh, I'm so upset with him because he knows what he's supposed to do and he's just deceiving everyone and he's leading a double life. That's where there's a mitzvah to bear him malice, but at the same time that I bear him malice, I have to view him as my brother. He's still my brother. Just because my brother goes ahead and does something foolish with his life and does something wasteful, I don't have a mitzvah to love him? Of course I do. And so therefore, that's what we're talking about. I still have to love him, even when I'm so upset with him because he's doing the wrong thing. Okay?
Rabbi,
Yes.
just a quick question here. So if you had for example, let's say you had a situation where you had one of your members had let's say a brother who was a part of a clergy. He was a rabbi of a reform shul or sort of a shul. So isn't the only way left for us today is to not give that particular rabbi the kavod of having an aliyah, that we can show that we don't accept that, or is there any way of showing that for clergy of other streams of Judaism?
Well, I'm not sure. You see, it all depends. A clergy of another stream of Judaism is also, in many respects today, like the Chazon Ish had said, a tinok shenishba. Any member of the clergy who's my age or younger, your age or younger, let's say, is not a person who, generally speaking, was raised perhaps in a religious home. He may have been raised in a very traditional but not religious home, and he decided quite virtuously that he wanted to contribute back to the Jewish people. So he could just as well, very well, be a tinok shenishba, that kidnapped baby that we were discussing before, in which case there's no mitzvah to have any derision or scorn for him, and therefore I don't see that there would be a reason to deny him anything, just like we would not deny any tinok shenishba an honor in the synagogue. There are certain shuls that have a policy not to give a machalal Shabbos, a person who's not shomer Shabbos, to give that person any honors on Shabbos, and that's within the shul's prerogative to do so if they feel that this will elevate Shabbos observance. And in that case, maybe the member of the clergy from another stream of Judaism would be the same way. A shul may also feel as a policy that they don't wish to show any honor to a member of the clergy from another stream because they feel that this is a way of deterring their own members from going over to that other stream. But I'll be honest with you, Ron, I don't feel that either of those apply in today's world. I don't think that anyone who's a part of an Orthodox shul is going to feel a sense of, well, if they gave an aliyah to Rabbi so-and-so, maybe I should go to the conservative shul. Right? People don't, that's not the way people generally think. And so I've never taken that position. I understand that other people might, but I don't believe that that's helpful. I think that in today's world, the conservative movement is dying, and we have to show compassion and outreach to all of our counterparts, including our counterpart clergy, and that's where we are today. And so we should not shun or distance ourselves from any Jew under any circumstances. What this particular halacha is referring to, in my opinion, is something that I know about probably more than any of you on this call, which is people who are upstanding members of an Orthodox shul, but have something very dark and sinister in their lives that other people don't know about. And many times the rabbi will know about it. Many times the rabbi doesn't know about it either, but many times the rabbi will discover it because of various kinds of circumstances. Many times it has to do with situations in a marriage. I'm dealing with someone right now whose marriage is on the rocks because his wife discovered that he was going to massage parlors, and not just not the nice massage parlors, the not nice massage parlors, and so I'm working with him to as part of his rehabilitation to see if we can save the marriage. Now, would we give that person an aliyah? I'm not sure. It depends on where that person is holding. But that's where we have this issue over here of, is there a mitzvah to have negative feelings towards him only if he refuses to be rehabilitated, right? So let's say the guy is living a double life and he's cheating on his wife and he's going to whatever, right? So that's where the Torah says, if you know someone is doing that, then you have a mitzvah to bear them malice. You should not want to enjoy their company. You should not want to try and befriend them unless you feel that through your befriending them you can rehabilitate them. But still, you have an obligation to make sure that they are financially whole because they are your brother. Now, so therefore, it's a type of malice that you're supposed to bear towards them, but almost like hate the sin and love the sinner. You know what I'm saying? It's, in other words, I am repulsed by your behavior. That's what the Torah is expecting us to feel. I'm repulsed by your behavior, but at the same time, I love you because you're a member of my family, and I cannot sit by and watch you suffer and watch your finances be ruined. I'm not allowed to do that. So therefore, it's hate the sin, love the sinner, in a sense. So let's take a look at the Imrei Yaakov. But actually, we'll just look at the first one, where the Imrei Yaakov says, "V'hisrabo," you gave the fellow due warning in advance, and you told him, you've got to stop this, man. You've got to stop eating those cheeseburgers. It's a terrible thing. And de'im lo hisrabo shema lo yadabo hanal dehu asur v'havalei shogeg de lo mikri rasha. And you have to know that the fellow knows that what he's doing is wrong, and that's why you have to have had that conversation with him, where you told him, "What are you doing? You're walking into McDonald's eating a cheeseburger. You can't do that." And if you didn't have that conversation with him, you're not allowed to have any negative feelings towards him, because maybe he's quite innocently doesn't know that something is prohibited. Now, of course, if it's something quite obvious, right? So then you don't have to have that conversation with him if it's like cheeseburgers. But if it's something that perhaps is a little bit more subtle, let's say the guy is doing other kinds of shenanigans, other kinds of misdealings, which perhaps are a little bit more gray. So then you have to make sure that you have that conversation with him, that you tell him, listen, what you're doing is wrong. It's theft, or it's immoral, or whatever the situation may be. You're not allowed to do that. If he still doesn't do tshuva, so then the Torah says that there is a mitzvah to be repulsed by him, and nonetheless you have this mitzvah of te'ina, of prika. Okay, so we're going to hold it here for today. Again, my apologies for cutting it short so early, but we'll resume Emir Hashem tomorrow. Okay? So have